quarterly goal setting. Now, if you have any questions throughout this, drop them in the comments. If you're watching on Facebook, drop them in the comments. If you're watching on our new platform here, drop them in the comments as well. Give us a comment anyway. Let us know you're there. Let us know if you're watching. And we appreciate everybody being on. So we are going to dive in quarterly goal setting. So the first thing I want to talk about with quarterly goal setting is, why do we set quarterly goals? Why am I such a fan of setting quarterly goals rather than setting yearly goals? Well, it's for a simple reason, really. And if you look at it, one, check out the book. I always reference this book because that's where a lot of this content comes from. It's called The 12-Week Year. The 12-Week Year by Brian Moran. It's a really good book. I highly encourage everybody to watch it. But what Brian talks about in that book, and what I've experienced myself with my business, what I've seen lots of business owners experience with their business, is that when we do a 12-month goal, our goal is for a year, it's simply too much time. And it's simply too much time. And what I mean by that, because if let's say, for instance, I have a goal, and we're going to say easy math here, for easy math's sake, we're saying $100,000. My goal is I want to make $100,000 in 2025, say. We're looking forward a year. Or maybe my goal is this year. I want to make 100 grand this year. And as David just said, easier to achieve. Absolutely. We're shortening our window. So what I want you to do is look at this. If I look at my annual goal, and I say, this year I wanted to make $100,000. And then January comes and I sell 0 homes. I can justify and say, well, no problem. Don't need to freak out yet. I still have 11 months. I got tons of time left to make up for this month where I didn't sell anything. A lot of time left, no problem, no big deal. And then, March hits, and then let's say we get to June and my goal was 100,000, and let's say I've made $20,000 so far. And I'm 6 months into the year now. In 6 months, think about it, we are almost in July, right? We're approaching Q3 right now. This year flew. It did for me. I'm pretty sure it did for everybody else too. This year has gone really, really fast. The days get away from us, the weeks get away from us, the months get away from us. But let's just say we get to June, or in this time frame right now, and my goal is to make 100 grand. And let's say I'm at $20,000 so far for the year. Well, now I have two choices. Now it's like, well, I either need to make 80,000 in the next 6 months, and I only made 20,000 in the first 6. So I either need to increase my activity and ramp up my activity and really start to kick it in high gear and really make things happen, or I can justify a lower target. I can justify now, well, you know what, if I made 50, it's what I made last year. It covers my bills. It's short of my goal by $50,000. It's 50% of my target, but not the end of the world. I can still do, I can live on that. We make sense of a lower number because we had such a long time frame to achieve our goal, and that time frame got away from us. So what I want you to think about, one, is throw out the annual plan. Let's stop thinking in years, and let's start thinking in 12 weeks equaling a year. And what does that mean? What does 12 weeks equal a year? What I'm saying now is we want to look at every quarter, we look at that as our year. So Q1 is January, February, March. Q2 that's our second year essentially, is April, May, June, July, August, September. That's what we're approaching right now. And that's why I do this training 4 times a year. So a lot of you that have been with us for a while have probably seen this before. I like to do it every quarter though, because it's good to reset. It's good to refresh. It's good to get a kind of a synopsis or a look at where our business is currently. But I want you to start thinking in 12-week blocks rather than 12-month blocks. And so if we're looking at that, I want you to think about this. 20% of your income on average should come in the first quarter, 30% in the second, 30% in the third, 20% in the fourth. So if your goal was $100,000, right now, we've just wrapped up Q2, you should be at 50K to be on target. Q1, our target was 20 grand. That's what's also nice about focusing on a 12-week year, is that rather than looking at this big goal, I need to make $100,000, all I'm focused on in the first quarter is how do I go make 20 grand? In the second quarter, if I hit 20 in the first, the second quarter now is how do I go make 30,000? 30,000 in the third quarter, and now 20,000 in the fourth. So I want you to look at your goal, and I want you to think about, one, what is your income goal, which I'm going to touch on the next slide, and where are you at in relation to your income goal right now? So again, for easy math's sake, if your goal was $100,000, are you at $50,000 in income so far this year in GCI? If not, how far are you behind? Maybe you're ahead. Maybe right now you're ahead of the curve and you are pacing, you're at 60 or 70,000 already this year, potentially. But start thinking about that. And I want you to look at where are you at in relation to your goal. Now, the next thing I want you to think about is, what is your income goal? So what is your income goal? More importantly, why is your income goal important to you? So I've often found that when we have an income goal, if we have a strong enough purpose or a strong enough reason why that goal is important, we find a way to achieve it. When our income goal is just something that it's some arbitrary number, like, well, 100 grand sounds good, 500 grand sounds good, $1 million sounds good. What tends to happen is if there's not a strong enough driving force or reason why that goal is important, we tend to not achieve it. So we tend not to achieve it because there's nothing driving us every single day to go make that goal a reality. So we have to figure out, one, what is my income goal? And two, why is my income goal important to me? What is the reason behind wanting to make that money? What is the reason that I'm going to get out of bed every day? I'm going to go to work. I'm going to go help people achieve the goal of buying and selling homes. Therefore, I can generate an income to fund what? What is it funding for me? What is it doing for my family? What is it doing for me? What is it doing for my lifestyle? What is the reason behind wanting to make this money? Because if we just throw a number out there, like, yeah, it sounds cool. If I hit it, cool. If I don't, no big deal. Not the end of the world. My life's still good. All right. We have to figure out what is the reason behind it. So I want you to really think about that right now. And I want you to take a piece of paper and write down, what is your income goal? Write down your goal right now. So take out a piece of paper and write down, what is your income goal? And maybe it's an income goal for the remainder of this year. So maybe it's a goal for hitting the remainder of this year, or maybe just write down what your income goal was for this year, and then write down where you're at in relation to that right now. And I'm curious for people watching, are you ahead of target right now, or are you behind? And if you're ahead, congrats, that's awesome. And if you're behind, I want you to start looking at thinking things like, why am I behind? What have maybe I've not been doing that I should have been doing to keep on track? Or maybe I just wasn't tracking at all, because I know that happens for a lot of us as well. Now, the other thing too, when we put business plans, I'm guilty of this early on in my career, like putting some extensive, elaborate business plan together. Like I actually bought a book on how to write a real estate business plan. And then I spent a lot of time putting a big, thick business plan together. And then guess what I did with it? After it was all put together, I spent like a week on it. I'm putting this business plan together. What do you guys think I did with that business plan after I completed it? Curious to see. But I'll tell you what I did. I didn't do anything with it. It sat in a drawer. It sat in a drawer. And sorry if I'm looking at different screens and monitoring comments coming in. It sat in a drawer, and I looked at it like around this time of that year. I set it all up in like October, November. I'm going to make this thing go. It's going to be my best year. It got stuck in the drawer. I looked at it halfway through the next year. And guess what? Fell really short of my income goal. So that's why I'm talking about breaking this into chunks as well, where we're not looking at such a long period of time. So I want you to think about now, again, what is your income goal? Write it down and start thinking about, why is this income goal important to you? And what I want you to think about too is, when you write your goal down, does it feel uncomfortable? Does your income goal seem like, God, I'd love to make that, but I don't know, man, that seems, I'd probably have to sacrifice a lot to make that happen. Or, I don't know if I have time to really make that kind of income. Or does it make you a little bit uncomfortable when you write your goal down? And if the answer is yes, that's good. You want it to feel a little uncomfortable, because if it's just something like, nah, no problem, I got this, it's easy, we're probably not working to our potential. Like if you just know, yeah, my income goal is X and I'm going to hit it, no problem. It's a piece of cake for me. This is easy. I've been doing this a long time. I challenge you to stretch yourself a little bit, because I promise you're probably not working to your fullest potential and giving it everything you have. So I want you to think about, what is your income goal? More importantly, what is the vision for your life and what you want your life to look like? And now if that vision and that income goal seems a little bit out there, like makes you a little bit uncomfortable, that's okay. And you may even be telling yourself, I'd love to make $1 million in a year, but shit, that seems impossible. Right? Well, if you're feeling that way, you're not alone. Like I reference back in 2011, my goal is to make 50 grand. All right. My goal is to make $50,000 to quit having debt collectors call me every single day and to quit having like my heat shut off and water shut off. And I was in a lot of debt, man, a lot of student loans, a lot of credit card debt, struggling financially. That was my goal, 50 grand. My goal has evolved since then. So what I also want you to look at too is that, your goal doesn't have to be this massive number right now. Because oftentimes I hear people say when they talk about their big why or their purpose, it has to be this massive thing. Well, it's okay to have short-term goals as well. And like my goal back then was 50 grand. 50 grand gets me caught up. It doesn't get me out of debt. It gets me caught up where I'm making my bill pays every month and not falling behind. So, and then all of a sudden it went to 50 grand a month. All right. And then it just keeps growing. So keep that in mind. So I want you to think about what if. So if you're feeling right now like, it seems impossible. What if it wasn't? What if it were possible? What if it were possible to make my goal happen and to establish this life that I really want and to live the life I want where I can travel, I can go wherever I want. Like I always talk about definition of wealth in a lot of regards is to be able to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want. If I wanted to pack up and go sit on a beach for 6 months, could I do that? Or a year, could I do that? Right? So establish the vision for your life and start thinking, what if it were possible? And if it were possible, now that I'm thinking, yeah, maybe this is possible. Well, then I want to ask myself, how? How might I make it happen? Now I'm asking myself better questions. And if you've ever read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I quote this book a lot, which I was really bummed out. I found out a lot of that's a lie. Maybe I don't know if that's true or not. Still a really good book and worth a read, but a lot of it was fabricated. Anyway, what I liked about that book was Kiyosaki said in that book that his rich dad said essentially that the difference between poor people and rich people is that when they're faced with a challenge or an obstacle, poor people say, I can't do it. That's not for me. That's for somebody else. We weren't made to be wealthy. That's for somebody else. And when they say that, they immediately shut their brain down, which is the most powerful supercomputer we have is our brain. But they immediately shut down their brain from figuring out ways to make that thing happen, to go achieve that goal. They're limiting themselves and they're limiting their belief system on what they can make it happen. Like if you ever watched the movie Rudy, who's seen the movie Rudy? I know David Haley has. He's a sports guy. But who's seen the movie Rudy? And with the movie Rudy, remember when Rudy was thinking about going to Notre Dame? He was getting on the bus, and his dad said, he came at the bus stop and he said, we're Rudigers. We don't go to college. His dad was imposing his limiting belief system on his son. Right? His dad gave up somewhere along the way and just made sense of the life he had, rather than going out and achieving the life that was possible for him. But he immediately shut down and said, no, we're Rudigers. We don't go to college. We work at the factory. That's what we did. And that's why his dad worked in the factory, right? Because that's why he stopped utilizing his brain to think about what if it were possible to go to college? What if it were possible to succeed at a higher level? And then if it's possible, how might I go make that happen? And now once we start thinking about how do I make this happen? How do I make this happen? We start putting our focus on that. Well, then what happens is we start pushing ourselves in the direction of having the success we deserve. And all of a sudden, then you become a different person. Over time, you become a different person where you just know I'm a person that earns 50 grand a month. It's just what I do. Right? What was once my yearly goal is now my monthly goal. What is now my monthly goal will someday become a daily goal. Right? You build confidence. And I often tell people that is the greatest value to becoming a wealthy person. The greatest value in becoming a wealthy person isn't necessarily the money. It's the belief system that you develop. It's the confidence you develop. It's the skill set you develop. It's the person you become. Because take it all away. Take away your house, your money, your cars, the trips, all of that. Take that all away. You still have you. You still have the skills you've developed. You can go out and do it again. So I really want you to think about establishing the vision for your life and what you want your life to look like. And more importantly, right now, look at what is my income goal and where am I in relation to that? And I'm going to go make this happen no matter what it takes. And so with that said, let's look at a couple of things. Now, because this is goal setting, and I went off on a little tangent on my mindset there for a minute, but because this is goal setting, here's what I want to do. Reference back to what I said about establishing, this big lofty goal plan, where it's like this 10-page, 20-page business plan, all of this. Rather than doing that, what I want you to focus on now is, how do I establish 5 critical tasks that are going to push my business forward every single week? So 5 things. That's what our business plan is going to encompass. That's what the quarterly business plan encompasses, is a simple strategy of developing 5 tasks that I'm going to do consistently over the next 12 weeks to push me toward my goal. Now, let's just say I'm starting this today, because I wasn't here in January or March or April or whatever, and I'm starting this today. And I say, okay, from today through the next 12 months, I'm going to make a $100,000. I am going to make $100,000. Well, I know that if we look at our business, 20% of our income, Q1, 30% of our income, Q2, 30% of our income, Q3, 20% of our income, Q4. Right now, I'm focused on, I need to go make $30,000 in this next quarter, which starts here in a few days on July 1st. So my goal right now, I would write down yearly goal, next 12 months, $100,000. Q3 goal, $30K. That's all I'm focused on right now. Is I'm going to go make 30 grand in the next 3 months. I need to make 10 grand a month over the next 3 months. So I need to be thinking about, what are 5 action items that I'm going to establish that I'm going to do consistently every single week. And so I'm going to think about and start writing these things down. So what I want you to do is think about this. Where has your business come from this year? Where did your business come from last year? Where did your business come from the year before or in the last few years? And start writing down, okay, I closed 18 transactions from my SOI in the last 12 months. I closed 7 transactions from open houses. I closed 2 transactions from internet leads. Whatever it is, write those down. And that way we're going to start establishing some criteria around what we should focus on. Now, if I closed 18 transactions from my SOI last year, I may want to look at doubling down my efforts on my SOI, because that's a big pillar of business for me. If I closed 0 from internet leads, and I'm putting all of my effort into internet leads, I may want to rethink my strategy. Let's say I've been working internet leads for a year and I've closed nothing and I've spent a lot of money on it. I may need to rethink that strategy and maybe put my money allocated toward my SOI and focus more on that. So I want you to start writing down right now, where did your closings come from last year, over the last 12 months to 24 months? Where did the bulk of your closings come from? And write those down. And then once you start writing that down, what I want you to do is think about this. I want you to start thinking about making your 5 criteria to creating a better 12-week plan. So we're going to now establish 5 action items, as I mentioned, that are going to push us weekly, every single day, every single week we're going to do. And here's what I want you to do with it. I want you to make them very specific. And I'm going to get into examples here to help out. But I want you to make the criteria of what you're going to do every week very specific. Like, I am going to make 100 phone calls every single week. I am going to talk to 100 people every single week. That is specific. That's a specific goal, and it's a measurable goal. I am going to set 1 appointment every week. That is specific. That is measurable. I'm going to state them positively. I'm going to ensure they are a realistic stretch. What does that mean? Well, I want to make sure that it's not something that's just going to be a piece of cake for me. Like, if I'm in the habit of setting 1 appointment a week and it's no problem, yeah, I can set an appointment a week, no problem, and I'm not hitting my income goal, well, I may need to increase that goal a little bit. But I also, if you recall, if you've ever gone to a training where people would say, okay, I want you to really think about your income goal and write it down and why, this and that. And let's just say I wrote down 250,000. And then they said, okay, now double it, 500 grand. Like, I already thought 250 was going to be a stretch. All right. And now they were telling me I have to go make 500, and maybe the 500 is not, it's like so far out of the realm potentially for people that it's like, well, I'm not even going to, that's stupid. I'm not going to make 500 grand. Right. Like, I want you to make sure it's a realistic stretch and something you believe you can achieve. Not like somebody else tells you, well, your goal is 500 grand, you need to make $1 million. Okay. Well, if the million's not important to you, you're not going to make it happen. But if you feel that if I go make $500,000 and it's going to afford me a great life, and I'm going to be able to put my kids in great schools. We're going to take great vacations. We're going to do all these things. I'm going to fund the life I want. And you're passionate about that, and you have a belief system that you can go make that happen. Well, then I feel, and you're a little uncomfortable with it because that's a lot of money, right? Like that's a realistic stretch. I don't believe in just doubling goals for the sake of doubling them. I feel that we need to feel a little bit uncomfortable with our goal, and we also need to believe it's possible. So ensure they're a realistic stretch, very important. Assign accountability. So what do we mean by assigning accountability? And assigning accountability is basically who's holding me accountable to making sure I hit my goals. So who is holding me accountable to make sure that I'm hitting my goals every single week? That's somebody we need to have in our life. All right. That's somebody we need to have in our life that is holding us accountable, because who is guilty of letting things slide when we have no one holding us accountable? I think we all are. It's easier to go to the gym when you have a partner going to the gym as well that's pushing you, and you know they're going to show up and you can't let them down. It's easier to go, right? That's an accountability. It's easier to go make calls when you're supposed to make calls when you have somebody else doing it with you. That's accountability. If you had to turn your scorecard in every week to someone to be accountable, chances are you would do your criteria a lot more. So think about who you can, once you establish your criteria, who can hold you accountable, and then be time bound. What is time bound? Have an end date to it. What am I going to accomplish this week? What am I going to accomplish this month? What am I going to accomplish this year in my quarter? Because my 12 weeks is my year. So be time bound. Now, also when doing this, when we work from this more narrowed focus plan, it's got 3 benefits. It reduces mistakes, because we're not trying to do all these things that maybe aren't important. Who here has done things and spent a lot of time on something that really wasn't that important anyway? I often use the example when I was a brand new realtor. I put my suit and tie on, I'd go to the office, and I'd sit there and mess around with a logo. Like I'd be on Microsoft Publisher trying to create a logo myself. I guess Fiverr didn't exist back then or something. I don't know. But anyway, I'd spend like all this time putting a logo together. Why? Why did I need a logo? I was at Coldwell Banker. I just use their logo. Who cares, right? So my point is, it reduces mistake and saves time, because we're focused now on the things we need to do, and we're not mistaking movement for achievement. Like I was mistaking the fact that, well, at least I'm putting my suit and tie on and I'm going to the office and I'm there, I'm at the office, but I didn't talk to anybody. I did not push my business forward. I'm just wasting my time. I would have been better off. I would have had the equal results sitting on the couch watching TV as I did sitting there messing around with a logo that had no purpose in even needing it. So when I have a distinct plan, I'm putting focus on the things I need to do, which is number 3, providing focus. It's providing me focus on what I need to go do to push my business forward, so I'm not wasting time. We know in this industry, we can get dragged around and we can waste a lot of time. We can go out and show unqualified buyers because we didn't do a proper buyer consultation and figure out if they're approved or not. We're wasting time. When we start establishing a more distinct plan and business plan, and we start shortening our window for the amount of time we have to achieve our goal, we find that we don't have a lot of time for kind of like nonsense, right? Because we're focused on our goals. I got to go hit my goals and make these things happen. So reduces mistakes, saves time, provides focus. Now, let's go back to our 5 things that we are going to establish as our criteria. Now, keep in mind, these are the same 5 things every week. So what do I mean by that? It means I'm going to establish 5 action items that I'm going to do every single week, and I'm going to do them consistently every day, every week for the next 12 weeks. So there are 2 things we call leading and lagging metrics. So when I establish my 5, there are a couple of things here. A leading metric is what I consider an effort metric. So a leading metric is what I consider an effort metric, meaning the amount of effort I'm going to put in to doing something. So this is things like, these are things that I can't control the outcome on necessarily. That would be a lagging metric. But this is like, I'm committed to go making these things happen to potentially set appointments and sell more houses. So examples of leading metrics could be things like time spent on lead generation. So time spent on lead generation, and maybe that's something where I'm saying I'm going to dedicate 2 hours every single day to lead generation. What is lead generation? Well, it's picking up the phone and making cold calls. It's picking up the phone and calling people in your database. It's going and doing open houses would be considered lead generation. It's door knocking would be considered lead generation. Calling expireds, for sale by owners, calling internet leads, calling, going out and networking events would be considered lead generation. So I could establish time and say, okay, this week I'm going to lead generate 2 hours every single day. So if I plan on going to a 3-hour networking event on Friday, that's 3 hours of my time that could be considered lead generation potentially. Now, if I'm going to that networking event, I don't want to just sit there and not talk about my business, but I want to go in there and intentionally go to that to try to meet people to generate business. But that could be a 3-hour block of my 10 hours. Now, where am I doing with the next 7 hours? I often tell agents that if you dedicate about an hour to an hour and a half of what I call outbound lead generation, where I'm calling and trying to find new clients and new people, and then about an hour a day of follow-up, you can have a really good business because it's important that you follow up. So if I'm doing about an hour to an hour and a half every day of outbound, I'm trying to drum up new business, and then an hour of follow-up business every day, I can have a fantastic business. So think about that 2 to 2.5 hours a day of lead generation. It's time spent on your business. You can really blow your business up and sell a lot of homes. Now, another leading metric could be number of contacts. How many people am I committed to talking to this week? Good rule of thumb, 20 contacts a day. You talk to 20 people a day, 100 people a week consistently, we're talking Monday through Friday here, you can have a really good business. Another leading metric could be script practice. Am I committed to working on my skill set to get better at having conversations with people? When I go on a listing appointment, am I practicing the listing appointment, or am I just practicing on the actual appointment? If I'm just practicing on the actual appointment, there's probably a lot of confidence in my tone. There's probably a lot of uhs and ums. There's probably a lot of certainty. So am I practicing? And maybe I commit to, I'm going to practice 30 minutes a day of script practice my buyer consultations, practice my listing presentations, practice my expired lead generation calls, my internet lead generation calls, my for sale by owners, practice my scripting on open houses. If open houses is a pillar, then I would be practicing what you're saying to people and how you're getting them to sign in. Maybe it's a number of open houses. I'm committed to doing 2 open houses a week for the next 12 weeks. I'm going to do one on Saturday, one on Sunday, or I'm going to do one from 11 to 1 and one from 2 to 4 on Sunday. I'm going to knock out 2 open houses. I'm going to generate a lot of potential buyers and potential listings from doing that. Maybe I commit to a number of hours of door knocking. Maybe you live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of turnover, a lot of people move, and a lot of different realtors sell houses in there, so no one has market share. Maybe you go door knock your neighborhood, introduce yourself, become the realtor of choice for that neighborhood. Maybe I'm committing, if you watched the social media training yesterday, maybe you're going to commit to a number of social media posts every day. I'm committed to posting every single day, or 5 a week maybe. Monday through Friday, I'm going to post social media to build my personal brand of being a realtor. And then maybe you look at follow-up completion. Did I complete all of my follow-up calls this week? If you look in KV Core, and I'll get a quick video out on this, there's a way you can see your follow-up completion to see if you're following up with everybody that you're supposed to. So maybe that. So these are examples of leading metrics. So if I were doing this right now, I would establish probably 3 what I call leading metrics. And my metrics, if I were going to do this right now, and actually I do this, I do this every week. So I'll give you an example. My metrics are 100 contacts a week. 100 contacts. That means like one-to-one contacts, meaning I'm talking to people. I talk to 100 people a week. That is my goal. So it's a 2-way conversation. It's not a voicemail. You can consider text a contact. I'll give you that if they respond. I wouldn't just send a message if they don't respond. That's not a contact. I also don't really like to call, like if I call and somebody hangs up on me immediately, I'm not really counting that as a contact. It's a 2-way conversation about real estate. Or if I'm calling agents, trying to get agents to join our brokerage, 2-way conversation about our company that wasn't just like not interested, click, right? Because you're going to get a lot of those too. Just keep in mind, when you start selling real estate at a high level, you will face a lot of rejection. It's part of the business. It's fine. It doesn't matter. The more rejection you get, oftentimes the more money you make, because every rejection you get, you're closer to a yes. So get used to being rejected. It's part of the game. It's going to happen. People are going to hang up on you. People are going to cuss at you. I get realtors that yell at me now. That's really weird, but hey, it's fine. You know, when somebody yells at me, if somebody's pissed off that I made a phone call to them, there's something else bigger going on in their life that has nothing to do with me. Like if you call an expired listing and they start cussing you out, which will happen, it's happened to me, it's happened to everybody that calls expireds, then they're really angry that you made a phone call to them to try to help them sell their house. Do you think there's something bigger going on in their life? Yeah, probably. They're not that angry at you for making a phone call trying to help them get their home sold. All right, so just keep that in mind. Rejection is a part of our business, and every successful person has experienced a ton of rejection. So if you're getting rejected, you're not alone. We've all been there. Laugh it off. Don't get cantankerous with people on the phone. Just wish them well. Hey, apologize for calling. Have a great day, and move on with the call. Don't let it affect you. Don't don't start arguing with them. That's not professional. Move on. Apologize for bothering you. Have a great day. Thank you. That's it. Move on. But going back to my metrics, 100 contacts every day, 10 appointments a week for recruiting. Now, if I'm an agent, maybe that looks a little bit different. Maybe, and depending on my goal, what does my goal need to be? Maybe I need 1 appointment a week to hit my goal. If I set 1 appointment a week, that's 52 appointments in a year. If I convert 80% of those into clients, and of the 80% I convert to clients, I close 80% of those, 30 something closings, I've got a really, really good business there. If I close 30 plus homes in a year, it's a fantastic business. Average price point, 250 grand. I'm making north of $200,000. It's a good year, right? So just think about that. Maybe I'm looking at that, but time spent on lead generation, and then we're looking at appointments set to conversion. How many did I close? And that's the example of my leading or my lagging metrics. Then these are examples of lagging metrics that would go on. So let's go back to our leading for a moment. If I were doing this right now from a realtor perspective, I would be looking at contact goal. And I'd say 100 contacts a week is a very good goal. I would be looking at doing open houses because I feel open houses still bring a lot of buyers. So I would be looking at adding 2 open houses a week into my plan. I would be looking at then from there, what's one other form of lead generation that I can be doing to generate business? Maybe I'm going to commit to door knocking my neighborhood. I would start with your own personal neighborhood because you already know people and you could generally pick up business from that. But maybe you're going to commit to door knocking a certain amount of time, or maybe it's networking events. You're going to attend a networking or 2 networking events every week to go meet people. You join a BNI group, something like that. Those would be examples, again, of leading metrics. And then my lagging metrics, I would have 1 to 2 of these. I would be setting a lagging metric of how many appointments did I set this week? My goal is to set 1 appointment a week, or 3 appointments a week, or 1 appointment a day, whatever it is, set that. And then I would be looking at another one of number of signed agreements. Of the people I met with, how many did I sign up? How many of those people did I sign up to decide to work with me? Or I could also do another one, properties under contract. How many houses did I sell this week? I promise you, when you start putting focus on selling a home every single day, you will start selling more homes. For whatever reason, in our industry, and really it's a lot of sales industries, whether it's cars, it's houses, it's insurance, whatever, people make sense of just occasionally selling a property or selling a product. Yeah, if I sell 1 this month, it's cool. What if you start looking at, and this is where I changed my thinking back in 2011, I started saying, I'm going to sell a house every day. So every single day I woke up, it was, I'm going to sell a house today. 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 I constantly tell myself that. Now, let's say I had 0 buyers and 0 sellers. The next best thing, I had 3 things I focused on every day. Number 1 was selling a home every single day. And if I had nobody to sell a house to, the next thing was, who can I get in front of today to sell a house to? Meaning I need to set an appointment. So who can I get in front of today? Who can I call? I've got a list of expireds here. I'm going to go call those. I have a list of for sale by ownership. I'm going to go call those. I've got a list of people that came off Craigslist. I was doing tons of Craigslist ads back in the day, which actually still works. Take a look at it. But all free things, right? None of that really cost anything. I had a title company, I think, that paid for my expired data. So just keep that in mind. There was not a lot of cost associated. I can go on Zillow right now. You could go on Zillow right now and start calling for sale by owners. It won't cost you a dime. You just have to get good at scripting and what to say. But every day it was, I'm going to sell a house today. If I didn't have anybody to sell a house to, who am I going to get in front of today that I can sell a house to? And let's just say I didn't sell a house today and I did not set any appointments today. The next thing I focused on was, who did I add to my database that I will sell a house to at some point in the future? So 3 things I focused on every day. Meaning the third thing was, who can I add? Meaning, what conversations did I have today with people that could potentially become clients in the future? Maybe I talked to somebody and they're not quite ready to sell yet, or not quite ready to buy, but they're going to do something in the next 60 to 90 days, or even a year from now. They're in my pipeline now, in my database, and I'm going to follow up. So I promise you, when you put focus on that, I sold 28 homes my first year. So was that a house every day? Not even close. But I sold 96 homes in my 4th year. So that's my point, is that you can go from not having any business to really being super intentional with your business and selling a lot of homes and making a lot of money. But you have to have a plan around it. You have to have some urgency and you have to have some focus. So to be thinking about this, I want you to start thinking about right now. Again, write your income goal down, write down why that goal is important to you, and then start writing down 5 action items you're going to do. And it's the same 5 things every week that you're going to do to push your business forward. Now I want to give you an example of Joe's from last year. So this was Joe Geary's last year. Joe's a young guy in his early 20s, been in the business 5 or 6 years now. He started at 19, I think he's 25 now. His goal last year was $120,000 for Q1. This is January, February, and March of last year. So this was his goal, was 120 grand for the year. His Q1 goal was 20% of that. Remember the previous slide, 20% in Q1, 30% of your income in Q2, 30% of your income in Q3, 20% of your income in Q4. So Joe's goal was 24,000 in his first quarter of 2023. Now, his metrics, look on the left side here, his metrics were 1 appointment set a week. So he wanted to set 1 appointment a week. He wanted to sign 1 client a week. He wanted to put 1 property under contract a week. He wanted to do 4 social media posts per week. And he wanted 100% follow-up completion score in KV Core. Now, Joe, his metrics are a lot of what I would call lagging metrics. So a lot of his metrics are lagging metrics. And because he had a lot of lagging metrics, the reason Joe had a lot of lagging metrics was because he spent the first couple of years of his career really focused on the outbound, the leading metrics, making lead generation every day, making calls every day. He built the habits to where he knows every day he shows up, he's just going to do it. So he no longer really had to hold himself accountable to talking to 100 people a week because he'd done it for years and he knows he's going to continue to do it. So he didn't really need a goal there saying, okay, my goal is to talk to 100 people this week. He just knows he's going to talk to 100 people this week. So he chose to focus on the results-based metrics because he knew he was going to do the output already in the leading things. He already knew he's going to show up every day. He's going to script practice. He's going to lead generate. He's going to do what he's supposed to do. He wanted to focus on the results side of it. So what I would say is if you're already in a really good habit of making those lead generation calls and lead generating consistently, you could focus on more lagging metrics. If you're not, I would focus on more leading metrics as well. So Joe, in his 12 weeks then, if we scroll down, look here at the bottom. So in 12 weeks, Joe's goal was to set 12 appointments. He actually set 17 appointments. His goal was to sign 11 clients. He signed 8. His goal was to sell 11 properties. He sold 9. And he did 58 out of 44 social media posts. And he closed 16,281 and he pended 7,209 in that first quarter. So he made like 23, just shy of his goal of 24 grand. He was right there within a few $100s of his goal. Now, keep in mind, this is Q1, this is January, February, March, where most realtors say nothing happens. All right, a lot of agents say, oh, it's the first quarter. It's supposed to be slow. Nothing happens until the spring, right? Guy hit almost 24 grand in the first 3 months of the year. All right, and keep in mind too, young guy, not a huge SOI database. He's starting now, just turned 25. He's starting to get to that point where a lot of his friends are going to start buying first-time homes. So keep in mind, he's been doing a lot of this without really having a strong database. He just had to grind it out and go find people that were motivated to buy and sell. My point there is it's possible. But keep in mind, he had a tracking system where he's tracking his metrics. He had accountability around it where people are looking at this every week to make sure he's staying on track. And because of that, he had a really good Q1. So I want you to think about that. Now, if you've got your leading and lagging metrics, I want you to think about a couple of things. So let's just say now I come off this call, I'm like, yeah, I'm pumped. I'm going to go make 30 grand in the next quarter. Next 12 months, I'm going to make 100. I'm going to make this happen. I've established my 5 metrics. I'm going to talk to 100 people a week. I'm going to make, X amount of open houses. I'm going to go to networking events. I'm going to door knock, whatever the metrics are. Let's talk about some common pitfalls. So common pitfall number 1 is you don't take the power of your visions seriously. Meaning, let's say you want to have this fantastic life but you don't think it's possible. You want to be able to just pick up and go wherever you want, take whatever vacation. Like maybe I'm tired of like, if I want to go on vacation, I have to really plan for it and budget and spend a bunch of time looking for the most cost-effective hotel that has free breakfast so I can save money. Maybe you're like, dude, I want to go to Hawaii next week. I'm going to book a flight and go stay at the Ritz-Carlton, no problem. Right? So maybe right now, and maybe that's not your vision. I'm just giving examples. But common pitfalls that we don't take the power of our vision seriously, meaning that we don't think it's really possible. And that's for somebody else. It's for somebody else to jump on a jet and go do that. Right? Like my first job out of college, I worked at an aviation department at Emerson at Spirit Airport. And I tell you, private travel, jumping on a private airplane, that is the best way to travel. There's no lines, there's no security. Just get on a plane and go whenever you want to leave. CEO comes up, everyone's ready, jumps on the plane, takes off, goes to China. Like, that's awesome, right? That could be your life too, but you have to take it seriously if that's something you want. Maybe that's not your life and you don't want that, and that's totally fine. But what it is you have to have a vision that's meaningful to you. So whatever your vision is for whatever life you want, it has to be meaningful to you. And it can't be too small, meaning that you can't just immediately say, that's for somebody else. I will never have that. I'll never have that car. I'd love to have that car. I've wanted that car my whole life, but it's too expensive. I'll never have it. We have to set a bigger vision for ourselves and what we want. And then we don't connect our vision to our daily actions. So every single day I wake up, I have to be asking myself, or even better yet, I'm going to ask myself, am I going committed to pushing myself closer to my goal today? And the answer is yes. I need to get up and get going. And then every night I need to ask myself, did I push myself closer to my goal today and the person that I want to become? Or did I let the day get a hold of me and just did I forget about making my calls? And I said, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm too busy today. Oh, this client called. I had to go show a house. I couldn't go do that anymore. I have to connect my vision to my daily actions. I have to make sure I'm committed to doing the things I'm supposed to be doing every single day. And that's why I like this 12-week year so much, because I have 5 things I need to get done every day, every week for the next 12 weeks to help me hit my goal. Nothing else really matters. I need to make sure I'm doing those 5 things consistently. Now, this too is directly from the 12-week year book. And oftentimes what happens is when people leave a business planning thing, they're pumped up, or like, think about when you went to a conference. You go to a Tony Robbins seminar, right? A lot of energy, pumped up, excited. Holy cow, I'm going to take on the world. Like, this is awesome, right? That's phase 1. We're coming out of there super pumped up with a ton of ideas, feeling super motivated because Tony's up there hitting his sticks together, going nuts, right? Dropping F-bombs left and right. We're all pumped up. But that's what we call uninformed optimism. So uninformed optimism, we're pumped up. We're like, I'm going to make this happen. We don't really know how yet. We just have this belief that, and we're excited, we're going to make this happen. Then what happens is we get going on our journey and life starts to happen. Things start to get difficult. We start facing setbacks and challenges. A client fires us, or a client decides to pull their house off the market. We spent money on photography and marketing and things like that. Well, we move into phase 2. Now our motivation starts to wane, right? We left the Tony conference, wherever we're at, right? Or we left the business planning. Now all of a sudden our motivation after a week or so starts to diminish a bit. And that's where we get into what we call uninformed pessimism. We become a little bit of a pessimist. We don't know why. We're just not feeling as pumped up and motivated as we were a week prior. Man, last week I was really excited, but things are hard, right? Well, then things continue to get hard because we're also taking on new challenges. We're building new habits. We're doing things that we aren't used to doing. And so because we're building new habits, things are more challenging. Like if you just start going to the gym, you're going to be really sore, right? First leg day you do, the next day you're not going to feel like getting out of bed because you can barely walk, but you have to still go to the gym. So that's where we hit this spot called the valley of despair, where it's like, this is hard. I really want it. I want that great life. And I want that, I want that life where debt collectors aren't calling me left and right. But man, this is hard. It's a lot harder than I thought. All right. This is the phase where most people quit. So this is where most people quit. It's the same thing with New Year's resolutions, right? Like, what's the statistic on that? They fail within the first month, first few weeks. It's because of this, that things are difficult. We're building new habits, becoming a different person than we were a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month ago. And so most people at this point in their life, they quit. Now, for the people that don't quit and they push through, now they become what's called an informed optimist or optimism. And so because now they're like, I'm pushed through that. I've made it. Things are going. I'm making things happen. I'm still making my calls. I'm still asking people to, inviting people to my open house and door knocking. I'm picking up business. I just sold a house. I just sold another house. I just got a new listing. I just picked up a new buyer. Things are happening. Oh my gosh, I got to keep this going. This is awesome. This feels really good. I got money coming in. Holy cow, I've got 18 grand coming in this month. It's the most money I've ever made in a month. Wow, I've got 57,000 coming in this month. It's the most money I've ever made this month. We start then to become optimistic about our future, and we continue to do that. And if we continue to do things we're supposed to do consistently and not say, wait a minute, I'm busy now with clients, I'm going to abandon all the activities that led me to have this current success. If we continue to do those activities day in and day out, we go to the final phase, which is success and fulfillment, where now all of a sudden you are a different person. And here's the cool thing. Over the next quarter, you can become a completely different person, a completely different realtor. You could then become, let's say right now, you haven't sold anything. You could go sell 6, 7, 8 houses in the next 12 weeks if you really focus and put it on it. Now, keep in mind too, success comes for different people at different times. What I often tell people is that the activities I do today will show up in results in the next 90 days or so. So if I set on my journey right now that's not to say I can't have success in the meantime, but what I want to do is say, if I'm starting today from scratch, it's going to take me 60 to 90 days to really ramp up and get this going. Am I committed to doing it for the next 60 to 90 days? Am I committed to taking as much action as possible to make sure I keep pushing my business forward? And if you do, you will be at the final phase of success and fulfillment. All right. Like, I want you to think about that, because I know too, as a new realtor back in the day, it was very challenging. I was the first one to show up to the office. I was typically the last one to leave. And I was also the poorest person in the office. And then there's other agents that have been in it for 20 or 30 years, and it didn't look like they did anything. And they're selling all these houses, 20, 30 million a year in sales. And it was like, they don't do anything. But the point was, I was comparing my year 1 to their year 30, right? Their year 1 did not look like their year 30. Their year 1 was probably much more challenging. They probably worked a lot harder. They paid their dues and put in the time. So oftentimes too, don't compare yourself to other people as well. Focus on you and what you can control. Set a goal. I found a letter from a training I did a long time ago. And my goal was, I'm the number one agent in I was at KW at the time, in my KW office. And at that point in time, I was probably like number 410 or something like that. Well, I never achieved number 1 in my KW office, but I was number 2. Not a bad place to be, right? So my point is, focus on your goals, put a plan together, work every single day. And I promise you, if you stick with it, this is not something you can just do for a day or 2 days or a week. This is something you have to do consistently, day in and day out. And you're going to face setbacks. You're going to face challenges. It's going to be more difficult than you thought. But if you stick with it, you will have success. And oftentimes too, I always tell people, if you're ever struggling, call me, because I promise you, whatever you're going through, I probably went through it myself as well. I know what it's like to not have any money. I know what it's like to, be terrified to go to the ATM, because you just pray there's a few $20 in there to pull out and it's negative 400. But I know what it's like. So if you're struggling right now, I'm always just a phone call away. I encourage everybody to call me. And here's some success tips. Share your plan with others. Call me, share it with me. David says 100% been there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure, man. We all have, right? And David's a very successful realtor. Does a great job. He's getting into coaching now, starting to coach agents. He has a really good business, and he's had a really good business for a long time. He's been there too. So I think that's the cool thing too, is that so many people that you see now that have a lot of success, they at one point were broke. They at one point considered quitting. They at one point thought about getting out of the business and doing something else. And man, this is hard. And is this for me? I see other agents having success, but it's probably just not for me. At some point in their career, they thought about quitting. Maybe recently they've thought about quitting, because guess what? It never gets easier. Like, we get better, but we still face challenges. The more money you have, the more challenges you face. Like oftentimes too, people think like, oh, once I get to a certain financial level, it's just easy. Well, it's not true. Oftentimes the problems get bigger, so there's always challenges, but now you're a different person that has come to learn to handle those challenges. And you're always gonna have times you're like, oh, shit, I just want to hang up the towel. I'd love to be doing something else. But that also means you're in the game playing it, right? And success, like challenges are a part of life. So definitely don't let this get you down. It's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be difficult, especially as you're setting out on a journey to become a top realtor, a super successful person. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be difficult. There are going to be things you're going to face where it's going to make you want to think about quitting at some point in time, but make sure you don't. Just keep pushing through. But make sure you share this out with others. So I would love, you're more than welcome to call me, email me, share with me what your 5 goals are. If you want to sit down and talk through this about establishing 5 metrics, happy to do it. Stay in touch with your vision. What does that mean? Stay in touch with your vision to me means every single day, look at what are your goals? Read your goals every single day. I often tell people that too. I save it in my cell phone, all my goals. I look at them almost every day. Almost every day, I look at my goals. I don't do it 100% of the time, but I try almost every single day to look at my goals. But essentially, I'm looking at who is the person I am becoming? Where do I want to go? What do I want my life to look like? So stay in touch with your vision. And then number 3 is live with intention, meaning every single day, push to go live the life you deserve to live. Go live the life you want to have. Push hard, make it happen, stick with it, don't quit. That's all I got for today. Appreciate everybody being on. Hope you guys like the new platform here. It's a little different, kind of looks fancy. I don't know. Let me know. Love some comments and thoughts on that as well. But thank you all. Appreciate you being on. And don't forget, in about an hour, we're going to be back with some contract training again. So everybody watching, if you're not going to jump on at 11, we just got an email this morning that they're pushing the July 1st contract changes. Remember, it was supposed to take place a week or on Monday, on July 1st. They're pushing it back toward like the 23rd of July, I believe. So for everybody watching right now, just know that July 1st deadline is no more. It's kind of toward the end of July now for new forms. So appreciate you all being on. Thank you. Talk soon.